Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Weekend in, weekend out, Motorsport Australia officials are making waves. From waving flags, waving cars through pit lane, or responding to a wave for help. Wave hello to new lifelong friends. Who knows, you might just make waves around the world. Ride the first wave. Search Motorsport Australia officials today.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV on YouTube and SimSpeed and the Motorsport Australia socials on Facebook. That is a taste of what you're probably going to be getting here tonight for round 6 of the Formula 4 Esports Australian Championship by Formula Racing Group. We are at the Circuit de Ledenon in France, a tight and twisty circuit that hosts Formula 4 racing in the real world. So there's a lot of real-life basis for this round of this esports competition. Bringing it to you live here on SimSpeed TV and the Motorsport Australia socials is myself, Reese Gardner, with Jay Kennedy alongside me in the comms box, and also producing behind the scenes. Scott Rankin cannot make it this week, so y'all are going to have to deal with me for this one. Jay, I've been looking forward to commentating this. I always love Ledenon. It's very underrated circuit in my books. Crazy elevation change around here, and it packs a lot of racetrack into a very tight space.
100% it does. Hello everyone, and I'm jumping in for Dave Roberts, who's had a bit of a family emergency tonight, so shout out to you, Dave. Hope everything's okay. Yeah, it's a really cool track, and we saw in the previous series we had of Formula Ford that it was really, really entertaining racing around this track. So what do you say about a good track to make it even more exciting? Just add water. We're going to have that tonight. It's going to be a brilliant night of racing around this very, very tight, twisty, technical and hilly track.
Yeah, it's built in an old quarry, and so that gives it an awful lot of the elevation change and twistiness that defines this circuit. What's really going to be interesting is the way drivers navigate those first 3 turns. Triple Gauche is the name of that section of the circuit. I mean, it's 3 corners in a row. What more can you say? The drivers do have to take care on the exit through turn 4 as well. There's plenty of hairpins around this lap as well at turns 5, 6, 9, 11, and 14. The final corner to lead you onto the start-finish straight. And that whole sequence from turn 11 all the way down to turn 14, you're going all the way downhill and you're twisting and weaving your way down, and it's going to be difficult to make passes down there. Drivers are going to have to be very cooperative with each other if they want to get this racing off to a clean start tonight.
Exactly right. It's going to be difficult to keep it clean, but keeping it on the circuit, keeping it on the straight and narrow is going to be very, very important to that. Talking about the racing for the night too, usual format for sport coming up first in this wet and wild racing conditions. 20-minute race coming up in just a moment's time. They're just I nearly said finishing and finalising at the same time and didn't come out right. They're just finalising their qualifying at the moment, their 4-lap solo qualifying. Surprisingly, a few drivers have tried to go out there on dry tyres. not necessarily to get a lap in qualifying. They've done their qualifying laps, but have gone back out to test the conditions to see if the dry tyre is worthwhile running when we get into the race in a couple of minutes' time. It may be right on the fringe of whether dry or wet tyres are preferable.
Yeah, potentially. We'll have to wait and see how it works, but I've just seen something on the weather radar that might pique our attention. We'll get to that in a moment. Daniel McCrohan, 34 points ahead of Ocean Colangelo. Team Max Boost is 1 and 2 at the top of the Sport Drivers standings. Jim Stoddart and Ian Shu, meanwhile, only separated by a single point for third spot. And then it's very close down below. Ethan Morris, Aidan Schweikert, James Rymakers, and Leo Dreyer all separated by only 10 points there, with Mason Harvey and Kane Kugamiya rounding out our top 10. Well, Jay, it looks like qualifying has just come to a close, and we're going to be getting into that 20-minute race now. And Ethan Morris has jumped onto pole position for this race. Very good lap in qualifying there, 2/10 clear of Jackie Chung, with Leo Dreyer and Scott Bartin rounding out the top 4. The second row is going to be our championship top 2 in reverse order, Ocean Colangelo and Daniel McCrohan. Matt Morris is going to start in 7th spot alongside Ian Shu, the Vermilion Motorsports number 35 there, getting into the top 10 once again, with Nathan Favero and Reese Rowland rounding out our top 10. There's 25 cars here tonight, plenty more to come.
Yep, from there we go back to Ashley Cutchy and John Wade on row number 6. Row 7 we'll have Ben Ryder and Chris Barnes. From there we go back to Simon Major and Wiley Blair, Martin Lipsky and James Raymakers next on row number 9. Row 10 will be Lee Peckham and Paul Thompson. And I'll finish off the rest because there's not many left. Jason Depp and Jim Stoddard with... we got next Stephen Cletus,
Cassidus.
Oh my goodness, I'm going to do a great job tonight. Cassidus, Daniel Coleman, and Flavio Dantas as well. My brain isn't functioning the same way that my mouth is, and as you were saying, the weather gods may play a big curveball right around checkered flag. The drivers that are starting on wets, the drivers that are starting on dries, looks about a 50-50 split.
Yeah, this is certainly going to be an interesting start. Whether or not we see that rain coming before the end remains to be seen. Well, here we go. The time is done for gridding and the revs are rising. Morris versus Chung on our front row. We get ready for the start here at Ledenon, and we are away. Big wheel spin from Ethan Morris starting on the dries. Jackie Chung has managed to get a really good start there. Barton 3 wide for third with Leo Dreyer and Ocean Colangelo. And there's contact. Colangelo interlocking wheels there with the number 70, sorry. And Leo Dreyer has been sent pounding back to the midfield. Meanwhile, look at the racing up the front. Ethan Morris versus Jackie Chung, 2 wide in the first of our hairpins here. You get a real sense for the elevation changes here on this first lap. There's pretty much 90% of the corners around here. You don't know what you're going to find on your way out.
Exactly right. You don't know what's going on ahead because you're blind coming up the hill, and then as soon as you get it to the top of the hill, you then got a corner. So it is very street circuit-esque with blind corners, just set up in a completely different way from what you're expecting to see. One thing that surprised me, Matt Morris, oh, there's a car slow there, Nathan Favero, he's able to keep it going, but he's dropped a few positions. Matt Morris was doing the most dry tyre practice throughout the practice session and qualifying, but he started on a wet tyre, so he's one that's realised the dry tyre probably isn't the tyre of choice. We have a safety car. Paul Thompson stopped on the track.
Yeah, safety car out at the end of lap 1. All the fields slowing down as the Ford Mustang GT3 makes its way out onto the racetrack. Now, Paul Thompson there, I can see that the right side of his front wing is not looking good, and I don't know if that his left front tyre is in any good shape either. He was all the way at the tail end of the field, and it looks like a potential botched move by Stephen Cassidus We'll see how it works here. Cassidus in the orange car coming in at the hairpin and turning him around, and yeah, contact the left front with the tyre bundle. And I think that's just one of many bits of damage. Yeah, front left's not working at all. So the number 2 is out. And with the safety car, we have quite a few drivers making their way into the lane. 4 to be exact. Dantas, Raymakers, Lipsky, and Stephen Cassidus all making their way into the pit lane. And whether or not they're going to be switching tyres is another question entirely. For the time being, seems like none of them have changed tyres. Fastest through the lane was Martin Lipsky. He's going to come back out in 22nd. Flavio Dantas, meanwhile, only spending 24.3 seconds in the entire pit lane. So
you drove just straight through the lane, did Flavio?
Yeah, I'm not too sure why that happened. Maybe he was thinking about changing tyres, or if he had damage, maybe getting it repaired, but maybe he's decided that it's for the best that he continues on. Wouldn't have lost any positions under safety car anyway.
Yeah, exactly right. Wouldn't have lost anything, and maybe did it just to see what everyone else was doing and decided, no, I'll just stay out for track position, or maybe there's something completely else that we've missed, but not sure. Everyone that did come into the pits has come back out after using their fast repair, so that's why they've all come into the pits. As you said, no one's changed tyres, but everyone did use their fast repair during that brief safety car period, because we are going green at the end of this lap.
Yep, instantly back to racing. It is only a short race in the pro class, so the drivers will want to get back up to racing speed as soon as possible. Under investigation, the incident that we saw between Ocean Colangelo and Leo Dreyer on the first lap there. That was just them interlocking wheels and Dreyer being sent airborne as a result of that. Whoever is assigned fault, or if it's deemed no further action, remains to be seen, but the stewards are looking at it. The safety car's pulling away, Jake. We're going to get back to racing in a few moments' time.
And you can see they're just popping up on screen. Paul Thompson has got back out on the track as well. He's at the back of the field, but he will get back going. And he's still on the lead lap. There is every chance for another safety car with this wet weather out on track, so he's not out of the race, despite being 3/4 of a lap behind.
Yep, well, now it's time for the getaway here from Ethan Morris. He's going to wait, and away he goes. He hesitated a little out of the final corner there, potentially to get a little more of an advantage over Jackie Chung. So we are away again with the green flag here to start the 3rd lap of action here at Ledenon through Triple Gauche once again. On board with Matt Morris here as he tries to chase down Ocean Colangelo for the last position in the top 5. Now it's the top 4. That's Scott Barton that's gone off there in the 909. Not sure if that was a solo mistake, but he was running 3rd at the time, and it looks like Nathan Favero's gotten involved somehow as well.
Yeah, well, Favero was at the back of the field. We saw him have an issue earlier on in the race, and I've just seen another incident. That's Chris Barnes that's gone straight ahead at turn 5, so he's had a moment as well. There's plenty going on. It's side by side, Leo Dreyer and Ashley Cutchy side by side coming through turn 7. This is a great fight there. Side by side's never easy at the best of times around this track, but especially in the wet.
Absolutely.
Even more so on dry tyres too.
Yeah, indeed. Still quite a few runners there on the dry tyres. It doesn't seem like they have any huge advantage over the wet tyre runners at the moment. So it looks like Favero and Bartin both lost it by themselves coming through the opening corners there. Still very early on in the race, so not much grip available in these tyres, and there's not much of a wet line either. That's Ben Ryder as well that's gone off too. Man, I think the majority of the field's having a problem even keeping the cars on track here. Wiley Blair has also had a big problem too, going off the circuit at the second to last of the hairpin turns on this lap.
Ethan Morris, though, he's checked out at the front, hasn't he? He's already got a 2-second advantage over Jackie Chung, and then you've got Ian Zhu and Ocean Colangelo, who's just been advised by race control no further action for that contact on lap 1. And saying that, though, Ian Zhu just runs off. There is an incident that has seen the wrath of race control. We saw Chris Barnes off the circuit at turn 6. That was from contact with Leo Dreyer, and he's been given a black flag drive-through penalty for that incident.
Yeah, race control working hard here as, goodness me, every other moment there's someone off. John Wade this time, and the number 46 manages to get back going somewhat safely as the rest of the field comes up on him, but down in 17th place for the time being, side by side battling. Simon Major trying to catch up to Flavio Dantas and Ashley Cutchy. Dantas has had a fantastic run through this field, as now Leo Dreyer is off as well. The 70 falling back there. He had his problems in turn 1, lap 1, and now it's just continuing here. The race still not even halfway done. That means Dantas is now up 15 positions here as he tries to get away from Ben Ryder and Simon Major here.
I've also just seen off camera as well, there's been a moment for our second place car. So Jackie Chung was, what, 2 seconds behind? Well, this is an easy way to double it. It's now 4 seconds back, but maintains the position in second.
Yeah, nice recovery from Jackie Chung, but unfortunately, just goes to show in these conditions and stiffly sprung single-seaters, when the car goes, there's pretty much no recovering it, especially through the middle of a twisting corner like there are many of here at Ledenon. Ian Xu behind Matt Morris here, making the pass on Reece Rowland, and
will the weather come into play, Reece?
Yep, the weather will be coming into play, it seems. I mean, it's covered just about half the ground there. A further issue for Scott Bart in there, falling all the way back down to the rear of the field. Ethan Morris seems comfortable as you can be in these conditions. But yeah, the rain is definitely approaching. Question is, are we going to see much of it by the end?
Yeah, and will it only affect 1 or 2 corners? Will it actually affect the race at all? I mean, still 11 minutes of racing left, so probably 8 laps to go if we stay breathing. Oh, Jackie Chung!
Oh no!
Off again!
Jeez, this race has turned into chaos, hasn't it? I was expecting it to be action-packed, but it seems like pretty much every driver in the field has had an off or a spin of some kind. For Chung, it was getting over the curb. It's very slippery on the curbs in wet conditions. You want to try and stay off them, which isn't conducive to a good lap time at Ledenon, a track where you need to use the curbs if you want to be fast. Yeah, it's a real difficult one to balance, isn't it? As you say, you do need to use the curbs in some ways, as Leo Dreyer comes in to serve his black flag. You do have to use the curbs in the normal conditions, as you say, to get a good lap time, but you just can't do that in these conditions with the wet weather. So where do you find the time? How do you balance that? How do you use the track to your advantage? Where do you actually attempt to make overtakes as well? Because you use the curbs on the outside to gain your momentum, or then you cut back to the inside and have to cut the curb on the inside, or use the curb on the inside. You can't do that. As Jason Depp had a moment, and now he's been passed by Simon Major. He's dropped back to 12th position. Yeah, Major up 4 spots now. Jason Depp, even though he did lose that place, is still up 9 spots from where he started. One of the few drivers in this field who's managed to keep some semblance of a race going here. Also seeing that there's a 5-second time penalty that's been given to Stephen Cassidis for that incident we saw with Paul Thompson on the first lap. Race control keeping... Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Every single time I look somewhere else, there's someone having an issue. This time it was McCrohan. He's just had a spin. That's allowed Ashley Cutchy through for 7th place. And looks like Reece Rowland's had a problem as well. And that's out of the final corner there. Such a scintillating bucking and diving circuit is Ledenon. In wet conditions, it becomes 10 times as difficult.
And the lead driver of those on the wet tyres is Matt Morris. He is bleeding some time to Ethan Morris at the front. I know Shane Colangelo is starting to break a little bit away. Ian Zhu also now trying to make a move to get himself back up to where he once was, into the top 3. Not going to happen yet. But I think in another 3 or 4 minutes, we might see Matt Morris just absolutely blitz the field, because the rain is coming. It is not far away. I think 3 or 4 minutes it's going to be here. Yeah, and we've still got 8.5 minutes left in the race, I was going to say. So, Ian Zhu on the dry tyres, going to have to pit at some point, I think. This track is not drying off any.
I mean, right now the track is almost at the crossover point between dry and wet tyres, but I think it's definitely going to fall in the way of the wet tyre runners here. Zhu trying to find his way past Morris, but it's just not happening. This is looking back from Ms. Colangelo here in the 75 Sim Sports orange car. She's doing really well at the moment. Remember, running second in the championship, so she's got a lot to play for here and has managed to keep it together, unlike most of the field tonight.
McCraw, the championship leader's just had another issue as well, so there's another little gain there for Shane Colangelo, who's really come on leaps and bounds in a very brief time within the iRacing service. I must say, one thing that is playing into Ethan Morris's advantage, 11-second lead at the moment. Will he be able to hold on when that rain starts to fall in a few minutes' time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think he's far enough ahead that he'd be able to keep the lead if he pitted for wets, but if he's able to hold on in full wet, rainy conditions, then there might be a fantastic victory for him. John Wade into the gravel trap there, falling down to 16th as Lee Peckham has been given a 5-second time penalty as well for another incident on lap 1, of which there were quite a few. Ian Zhu and Matt Morris continuing to battle away over the last position on the podium, and this has all given Jackie Chung quite a bit of advantage. You see that yellow and black machine creeping up behind them. Both Zhu and Morris are having to compromise themselves here behind Colangelo, and so this means Chung might be able to have a run at them in the final laps, but everyone will be watching the skies. Everyone will be keeping an eye on the weather radar. Meanwhile,
Lipsky and Raymakers.
Oh, goodness me. Oh, dear. Lipsky and Raymakers there off at the hairpin. Big contact, and I think both cars won't be coming back out of the pits anytime soon. Leo Dreyer continuing to have an absolutely miserable night here. I think you could say that for most drivers in the field, but these four are having a fantastic battle. Chung is now right on the back of Zhu and Morris.
Done a great job driving back up through the field as Jackie Chung set the fastest lap of the race at one point. Lost it very quickly back to Duntus. Now Ethan Morris has taken that away again. 5 minutes to go. Not much time left in this one. Will the wet weather start to rain down on the track again? We haven't seen any rain out on track since the practice session, so it's been a good 25 odd minutes since it's been weather falling on the circuit, wet weather falling on the circuit, that is. Will we see more wet weather before the end? It's really 50-50.
Oh, Matt Morris there. Ian Zhu managed to get the run around the outside there, but it looks like Morris, unfortunately, thought he could turn in a little earlier than that, and it seems that there's been a bit of side impact. Of course, these cars can take side impacts pretty well. So I don't think there's any real damage to Morris's car, but he has fallen outside of that battle. Both Chu and Chung are now past him, but there's no catching Ethan Morris up the front of the field. He is now in the lead by, it's looking like something approaching 16 seconds. Like that lead has ballooned out in the last few laps. Ethan Morris is just, he's 3 seconds faster a lap than everyone else, as Ian Zhu now has a go at Ocean Colangelo and gets into second spot. What a pass.
I'm saying that was a little bit cheeky too, though, that pass. Well and truly over the curb. Will Race Control say, hey, you need to redress that one, because that was very, very aggressive. But at the moment, Ian Zhu's allowed to maintain the position. It doesn't look like anything's been called into race control, so going to keep it for now, but there is also post-race reviews as that's Matt Morris around. No, he's made contact too.
Yeah, Flavio Dantes on his massive rise through the field, up 20 places now, but might have a little bit of damage to the rear that won't be helping his confidence any. Yeah, the thing about that pass that Zhu made on Colangelo is it looks like McCrowan, our championship leader, has had yet another issue. He's fallen back down to 11th. The rain is almost here. I wanted to say about Zhu. Yeah, I think we might just be on the verge of getting it if we get it at all. The thing about Ledenon is there's a lot of pavement beyond the white lines, and you don't actually get an off-track from iRacing if you go slightly beyond it in certain places. The inside of that corner might be one of those spots, at least before the lighter coloured concrete in the middle of the corner. Dantes, meanwhile, has come into the pit lane.
And he's got a mechanical black flag.
Yeah. Oh no, from the contact with Morris.
Yeah. Very unfortunate, and Matt Morris as well is limping around, still maintaining a little bit of pace. Might have a big enough gap to at least hold on to a top 10, but I don't think it'll be much better than that unless it pours rain.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. This is hard to figure out, honestly. I'm seeing that rain creep ever closer on the radar, but it looks like it might only just reach the circuit by the time the checkered flag flies. So maybe starting on the dry tyres was the better option. I mean, having said that, the only wet tyre runners the top 10 are... Oh, no. Oh, man. That's Jackie Chung back out of the battle for third there. Shu and Colangelo's still very close. It's just a case of who can survive at this stage.
Incident. Gee, I'm really doing a good job of butchering the English language tonight. Jason Depp has a little moment. Incident between Matt Morris and Flavio Dantes is under review. I don't think there'll be too much come from that, though, from my little look that we had, or the little look we had on screen. I don't think there's going to be too much come from that. It was just a spin for Matt Morris and out of control, made contact as he was spinning. Could be wrong, though.
Yeah. Well, out comes the
Raymakers.
The machine of Raymakers out of the pit lane. At least try to get a classified finish. Spent 7 minutes in pit lane there, so he's certainly not going to be gaining any more places. But at the very least, he'll see the checkered flag. 1 minute and 10 seconds remaining on the clock, and a lap around here takes 1 minute and 25 seconds if you're Ethan Morris. So he'll be coming up to the white flag this time by. He's the only driver I've seen outside of maybe Colangelo who's managed to have a race that's largely mistake-free. So we'll see if he can keep that up here for one more 3.15 kilometer run around the Circuit de Ledenon. Matt Morris, meanwhile, excuse me, 5-second penalty for that incident, not holding the brakes. So
shows why I'm not in race control.
Yeah, it's something that we tend to forget up here in the commentary booth. Holding the brakes is actually quite a big aspect of avoiding incidents. Well, we'll see here what we can do across the start-finish line for this pack here. It looks like Shu and Colangelo have managed to find their way a long way apart, in fact. This is the battle for sixth. Kutchi, Ryder and Roland all fighting over those last positions in the top six. Can any of them make a move? Look at the pace there from Roland in the yellow car, managing to get some good speed at the apex of Triple Gauche, but not able to get the momentum on the way out. Meanwhile, we're almost seeing the run to the last turns for our leader, the number 10 of Ethan Morris, the only car in the field to still occupy the same position they started in. He started on pole, he has led all the way, and he's going to come away here with an emphatic victory in the wet in virtual France. Ethan Morris is your sport winner, round 6 of the Motorsport Australia F4 Esports Australian Championship. Lovely drive.
Brilliant drive, absolutely dominant, and look at that, sets the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. Not only that, his fastest lap is almost 2 seconds faster than any other driver on track. Absolutely incredible drive from Ethan Morris. Don't forget, dry tyre in the wet as well, just to make it even better. As the rain starts to fall right now, Andrew picks up second and Shane Colangelo finishes in third. Colangelo's championship rival, Daniel McCrowan, is going to finish 10th at best by the looks of it. Not going to be able to gain any more spots.
Yeah,
a bit of side-by-side across the line between Kutchi and Ryder, and Kutchi gets it by 800ths.
Nicely done. Well, Doesn't matter how far ahead you are. If you're ahead, you're ahead. And Macron there, yeah, rounding out the top 10. And that's at the very least going to close the championship gap between himself and Colangelo. The battles are still going on further down the field. One more incident there for the number 20 of Stephen Cassidis. It's been a dismal race for him. Incident on lap 1, then 5-second time penalty from race control. Same for Favero as well. You know, you look down past the top 15 and you see drivers who really should have been up there, but for various reasons just couldn't make it.
Yeah, exactly right. It's been a very, very mixed up field for all sorts of reasons, but shout outs need to go to Jason Depp, Daniel Coleman and Fabio Dantas, all up 12 positions from where they started, which is a fantastic effort in these conditions.
Yeah, a mighty effort indeed. Over 20 minutes of racing here at the Circuit de Ledenon. Well, Ethan Morris, 22 seconds ahead of Ian Xu, takes the win. Colangelo rounds out the top 3. Chung managing to grab a top 4 despite his issues. It was a great comeback from him. Matt Morris stuck it out there on wet tyres and got 5th for his troubles, up 2 places. Ashley Cutchy and Ben Ryder separated by a very small margin. Roland, Depp and Macron rounding out your top 10, covered by 48 seconds.
Yeah, don't forget too, Matt Morris will drop down a bit from that. He'll lose a couple of positions with that time penalty as well. He'll lose 3, drop back a couple of spots. So Simon Major in 11th with Daniel Coleman, Flavio Dantas and Lee Peckham. Then John Wade, Scott Bartain, Chris Barnes, he had a bit of a shocker as well, unfortunately for him. Leo Dreyer, Jim Stoddard and Nathan Favero rounding out the top 20. Stephen Cassidis did finish on the lead lap in the end. Wiley Blair, Paul Thompson, James Raymakers and Martin Lipsky rounding out the field of drivers. It looks like we've got a couple coming in for a chat.
Yeah, looks like we are. We've got a few drivers waiting for a chat. First off, going to be our winner, Ethan Morris. What a fantastic victory it was for you, Ethan. 22 seconds ahead of the nearest car. And you made those dry tyres work in very damp conditions.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even speak to how tricky it was. I mean, you saw that start. You know, I thought I'd made a huge mistake going on the dries the moment that start went as badly as it did. Yeah, luckily I was able to get back on Jackie. I think it would have been turn 4. And that was good, you know, perfect timing, because I think a few corners later that safety car came out, kept me in the front, kept me in control. And ultimately, I think being able to lead off that safety car is what let me stay in control at the front there. I wasn't have to worry about anyone really around me. And I think they just let me focus on my own driving, taking it easy and just sort of easing myself into those conditions. I wasn't having to push and worry about anyone else. So, yeah, it was good to definitely help me concentrate on the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. Were you keeping an eye on the weather radar over the course of the race? Did you have anyone in your ear telling you that the rain was approaching?
Didn't have a look at the radar at all. The only indicator I got that it was getting really good was when the crew chief comes on board and just says, now it's been declared a dry session. That was my only indicator. And from there, I thought, okay, you know, I'll try and give it a bit more push. And that was where the lap time started to come down. But I mean, I think there was a 6-7 second difference between my first lap, the one after the safety car, and that final lap. So yeah, huge difference in pace from start to end, even just across that 20 minutes. So it really was changing, you know, lap to lap.
Yeah, very dry line by the end. But man, if you were up here in the comms box, you would have had a heart attack, because I can't tell you how close it was to having rain fall on the circuit right at the end there. Regardless, the win is yours, and a long way ahead of your nearest rival. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Big shout out to whoever at FRG chose to give the slight chance of rain for this weekend, because before this race, the forecast was there was a 10% chance of rain and maybe a little bit more towards the end of the race. And of course, we rolled that 10%, you know, it's just straight into wet conditions. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, you know, really just throwing a real curveball at us. And I think it was, yeah, really presented a really good challenge as well.
Yeah, indeed it did. Ethan Morris there, winner of the sport class here at Ledenon. Congratulations to him. And we'll also have a chat to Ian Xu as well, who crossed the line in second spot. It was a scintillating fight up through the top 10 for you, Ian. It looked pretty chaotic behind the leader.
Yeah, no, it was a fun race. Had a couple of what I thought was good pass, but I need to go through the replay to make sure I didn't do anything too across the line. But yeah, I'm happy to be back on the podium again.
Yeah, as you should be. We spoke to Ethan about the track drying over the course of the session. Obviously, the right decision was dry tires all the way through. But were you having doubts off the start?
I was, because the car was really sketchy to drive, and then even doing quali, I was on dry tires as well, and I thought that was a bad decision. In hindsight, I feel like the best way to go would have been wet for quali and then dry for the race, because down towards the end when the track started drying up, the dry tire really showed its advantage.
Yeah, well, regardless, second place for you, and considering you're well in that top 10 battle in the championship, that's a good haul of points for you going into the next round.
It was definitely happy with that, especially after the last couple of rounds where I wasn't able to do as well as I thought I would, which was disappointing. So today was definitely will motivate me to do even better, hopefully, down the line for the rest of the rounds.
Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go, Ian?
Well, thank you for the organizers. Once again, great event. Thank you for the team, Vermilion Motorsport. Thank you, everyone, for the clean racing.
Yeah, good stuff from Ian Shiver there, finishing second on the road here at Ledenon. Well, Jay, that's going to round out the sport class, but we have the pro class coming up very shortly.
Yeah, we do, and have a look at the weather conditions in the pro class. It is completely different. Bone dry, sunny, a tiny little bit of wind, and the drivers are out on track for qualifying already. So they've actually had a little change of format for tonight in qualifying. They're doing 4-lap closed qualifying, so we'll be into the racing action even quicker tonight. It's going to be very, very quick turnaround for these drivers. Get straight into it. It's going to be an action-packed one as well, because 4 laps flies by around this track. You don't get much chance to prepare with it being such a short circuit. You don't get much chance to get out there and get your eye in. You've got to get straight onto it straight away, and then you're into the battle as soon as you hit the track. It's such a short, challenging track.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We saw just how difficult it was to even keep it on the track in the midst of those wet conditions. But in dry, I mean, you do have a bit more grip, a bit more confidence, but those corners come at you just so much faster. You don't have any time to rest around this circuit. Even down the start-finish straight, you don't really have an opportunity to just zone out for a second, because the track is a bit bumpier than you think it is as well.
You'll even, the other part of that too is the straights that you do have, they're not straight. They've got small kinks in it, little turns. And then the other part of that is the elevation change throughout the straights as well, means that you're always on the wheel, just adjusting, making micro adjustments the whole time. So there's no chance to rest. 30-minute race with a pit stop. The only chance the drivers are going to get a chance to get a breather in this race is while they're stopped in their pit box. What's that? 6 seconds of time that you got to get your breath back and go again. It's going to be really difficult for these drivers.
Oh, it certainly is. I mean, a 30-minute race around here, lap times taking about 1 minute and 17 seconds or thereabouts. We're going to be getting something approaching 27, 28 laps, I'd say, in this race. So all to play for with just over 7 minutes to go in the qualifying session. No one has set laps just yet, but we should be able to see our first few drivers come across the line to set those times. So first of them is going to be Eddie Beswick and Danny Davison, as well as Vaughan Ryder and Chris Mitchell. Quite a few competitors here who we saw in the Formula Ford Australia Esports Championship earlier on in the year. Damon Woods, of course, in the provisional pole. And I mean, once again, just like Formula Ford Pro, it seems like it's his to lose.
Yeah, exactly right. He's in a class of his own. Literally, metaphorically, he's absolutely brilliant out on track in these cars. So he'll struggle to lose based on his pace before we talk about all that, we probably should have a quick look at the championship because it's not 100% settled, but it's relatively close. Another good result for Damon Woods, and that would put him really close to winning it after 6 rounds.
Yeah, indeed. Zach Rattray White trailing behind by some margin. That's 88 points of a lead that Damon Woods has gotten. Rattray White seems a bit safe versus Dylan Burse and Kane Ryder as well, but man, 5th on back, it's certainly looking tough. Kalen Chin and Benjamin Roberts only separated by 4 points. Have to go back another 20 to see Caleb Hydes, Eddie Beswick, Isaac Becker and Geordie Slater. That back end of the top 10 is going to go off in these last rounds.
Exactly right. It's going to be a very, very exciting finish to the championship, and 2 rounds to go after tonight as well. Spa-Francorchamps next round, and then the final round is at, my mind has gone blank, and I'm going to quickly remember where it is before I lose my train of thought. Algarve for the last round. So 2 really cool international circuits to finish the season off as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Algarve for the final round is going to be magnificent. It's pretty much the... Whoop, dear. Corey Bennett there. Having a bit of a problem in the opening corners. Algarve is the polar opposite to this track, really. I mean, it has plenty of elevation change, just like Ledenon, but it's a lot more of an open track, isn't it? It's got so much longer straights, heavy braking zones into tight hairpins, and a lot more flow to it, more distance between the corners as well. I think the racing is going to be just as intense as here, but for very different reasons.
100%. I just also saw... we just saw... Isaac Becker there start his lap. It looked like it was a really good first sector, and as soon as we flicked to him, he had a big moment and nearly lost it, as Damon Woods now has a friend up the top with Ben Roberts, both those guys participating in the F4 Esports World Championship on iRacing, which you can catch Sunday mornings. A couple of rounds left to go. 1 round left to go. 2 races left to go. That's on next weekend, I believe.
Indeed. You can check that out on iRacing's official broadcast channels there. Well, see what Eddie Beswick can do here to grab another time. A little bit of extra improvement on the cards as Hydes improves from 19th to 12th. We still have Damon Woods and Benjamin Roberts up the very top of the standings here, and Damon only 1.5 tenths ahead. So there's potential here for some big improvements. Woods, it seems, is backed off on his 3rd lap. He's going for a final flyer now. So we'll see if he can improve on that 1:17.4. Woods' fastest lap in practice was a 1:17.3. So there is a lot of potential for improvement here, especially in some nice cool conditions. It's only 23 degrees Celsius out on track at the moment. That's the tarmac temperature. Air temperature 20 Celsius, optimal conditions for good racing here. With Eddie Beswick improving back up to 11th, Woods coming round for his final time on the board, and it's a 1:17.6, not an improvement. Kane Ryder, meanwhile, improving from 9th to 5th. That's a fantastic run up through the timesheets there for Kane. And with 2 minutes and 40 seconds remaining on the timer, we've got just about everybody done for the qualifying session. We'll see if Roberts will be able to improve any and try and knock Damon Woods off the top spot.
His first sector doesn't look absolutely fantastic. It's not horrible, but it's not an improvement on his personal best. We'll see what he can do in the middle sector as he's just about to come up to that checkpoint now. No, it doesn't look like he's going to improve on this lap. And this is his 4th and final lap, so he won't improve, I wouldn't think. And saying that, as we said before, Damon Woods has now finished his laps. He went out and continued after he crossed the finish line and purpled the first sector on his 5th lap, which obviously will not count. So he'll probably be a bit disappointed that he's pulled out a bit of magic after the fact.
Yeah, I think he will. Well, only a few drivers left on circuit at the moment. Albert here has already completed his 4th and final lap there. 1:18.1 for him. And Caleb Hydes is going to start his final lap here. We'll We'll get an onboard around Ledenon, see just how much the drivers are working the wheel through Triple Gauche to start off the lap. You can really climb over those curbs in the dry conditions. I think these drivers will be very grateful that there's no rain on the horizon.
100%. They'll be much happier out on track in these conditions compared to what the sport drivers had. I think the difficult part for sport was not knowing which way to go, whether to go wet or dry, as Hides has a huge moment coming through turn 7 there, was able to hold on and still keep the power down the lap. First sector time is personal best, so we could still see an improvement here from Caleb Hides right on cue. I tell you what, commentator's curse is strong tonight.
Yeah, that was practically instant, wasn't it? Good form tonight, Jay. Yeah, that's a shame for Caleb. He was making steady improvements throughout the session, but looks like he'll have to settle for 16th place. Corey Bennett, meanwhile, hasn't gotten a lap time on the board yet in the session, and I don't know if he'll be able to at this stage. He's only making his way through the first couple of sectors, 23 seconds remaining, and that is too little time for the lap to count. It is a hard cut to the end of the qualifying session here because it's solo qualifying.
Unless he does a 14, he's not going to make it.
Yeah, nah. We have yet to see a 1 minute 14 at Ledenon. 3, 2, 1, and away he will go. And there will be no time on the board for Corey Bennett. Well, maybe a time that's way off everyone else's at the very least. So we'll have to wait and see what his pace is like when the green flag, drops. So to the grid then. We have a further 24 cars starting the race here, and the championship leader Damon Woods in the pro class is going to start on pole position. What a beautiful lap it was from our number 1. Benjamin Roberts is going to join him on the front row of the grid. Let's see what they can do to get a good start in these dry conditions. Kalen Chin and Isaac Becker are your second row. Kane Ryder making that monumental improvement up to 5th place is going to start alongside Eclipse's Dylan Burse. Then Vermillion's Zach Rattray White starting alongside Chris Mitchell from Racecraft Simulations. Good to see Chris back out here with Danny Davison and Chase Saxeld rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, from there we go back to Hayden Millington and Matthew Hansford-Taylor, rounding out row number 6. Row 7 will be Eddie Beswick and Rispa Banerjee. We go back to row 8, Mitchell Albert and Caleb Hides. Row 9 we'll see Seth Burchart and Jordan Mazzaroli. Row 10 will be Thomas Donahue and Vaughan Ryder. And then we go back to Alexander Wilson and Caleb Newton. And the last row will be Alex Beswick. And as we saw, Corey Bennett did not set a lap time, but the 23 drivers that did, only 1.5 seconds separating them. That is very, very tight.
Yeah, it's going to mean that the racing's either going to be super exciting or super chaotic. It was on the chaotic side for the sport class in the wet. Now in the dry, we'll see just how hard they can push. You'll be able to run a bit beyond the white lines and the curbs if you need to, but don't push it too hard because iRacing's automated system will assign you a slowdown if you go too far beyond the bounds of the racetrack and gain an advantage. The timer hits 0. We get ready to see Damon Woods and Benjamin Roberts starting our race off here for the pro class. Round 6 at Ledenon is go. And it was a pretty regular start from all of them. I didn't see anyone get a poor getaway. Woods will immediately move to cover Roberts and Chin coming into the opening corners. And the top 3 breaking away from the rest of the field as everyone else fights for the scraps behind. Kane Ryder managing to get a better run there over Isaac Becker, who's fallen behind Dylan Burse as well. Ryder now in the top 4. And now time for the first overtakes. 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. They're Noah's Arking it around here.
Yeah, 3/4 of the field Noah's Arking. It's beautiful to see, but it's caused a little bit of a check-up there for Matthew Hansford-Taylor, who's got on the brakes quite aggressively. Ooh. And then almost got run over by his teammate, and Alexander Wilson at the back of the field is facing the wrong way. He's going to continue on, though.
Yeah, got a bit cramped there in the midfield. Drivers running 3 wide, and not much room around this circuit when things go wrong. Hayden Millington having an issue. Same for Seth Burkhardt and Richard
we got a car upside down.
Oh dear, car upside down, car missing the rear wing. Looks like that might be Burkhart's, yeah. And Millington is the one missing his rear wing there. Heavy damage, and I think this is going to once again be a case of an early safety car.
Potentially, they are off the circuit, and we've seen in the past in this series, race control don't tend to throw a safety car unless the cars are on the track. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if they are called. It looks like they're both being cleared to tow, and we're going to stay green. So we're going to continue the racing. Yeah. Tom Donahue has driven into the pits, though. He has got damage and will need to get that fixed. So we might have 3 DNFs early on.
That's a shame. Burkhardt and Beswick in the pit lane. Millington still crawling his way around the circuit for the time being. Actually, hang on a minute. I'm looking at Millington. Oh dear, yeah, Dylan Burse. That's a big problem for him, and Zach Rattray White involved as well. I'm wondering if those two came together or it was separate incidents. We're going to have to keep an eye out for Hayden Millington. He's crawling back to the pits. That car has no drive. He's just made it out of the final corner. He should be able to get off the track in time for everyone else to come around, but man, that was a bit hazardous there for a few moments. Going back to see what happened to Rattray White and Burse, and it looks like Rattray White didn't really have any part to play in it. It looks like Burse was just trying to find his way past Kane Ryder, and unfortunately spun on his way through, collected Rattray White.
He made a little bit of contact with Kane Ryder as well, and Ryder's actually driven into the pits as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dylan Burst gets a little bit of a toot from race control there. And I've also just seen, speaking of, given a penalty to Matthew Hansford-Taylor for causing an incident as well, which is that big checkup we saw that started the chain reaction for that secondary incident involving Millington and Burkhart's and the like. As Kane Ryder looks like he might be day done.
Yeah, he was clipped by Dylan Burse on the way through, which ruined his rear right suspension, pushed the tyre in a bit too much. So no surprise to see he's back in the pits there. Well, the fight for the lead's still going on here. Woods, Roberts and Chin pretty close here, closer than Woods' championship gap would suggest. Seems like Benjamin and Kalen are giving him a run for his money here, and Benjamin Roberts is actually the faster of the 3.
Yeah, we've seen some really good pace from Ben Roberts throughout the season so far, so no surprise to see him right up the pointy end, and he is one of the best in the world at these cars, which is why he does have the World Championship licence alongside Damon Woods and Caleb Hydes in this race. 3 of those guys, as I said, will participate in the World Championship, and Kalen Chin has also been at the high end of World Championship sim racing as well, so it's a very illustrious field right at the front of this one here, representing Door Esports, DPR and Eclipse. Yeah, 3 different teams fighting their way into the top 10, top 3, and it is a lovely, oh no, that's the opposite of lovely though, Eddie Beswick. He was making some improvements early on in the race, but he's had a spin down at the bottom of the hill. I'm not too sure how that went down. We will potentially find out shortly. Further on behind, Matthew Hansford-Taylor and Chris Mitchell fighting over the position here. Mitchell almost getting hit off the circuit there. Young Chase Saxill behind as well. Mitchell is the only driver outside of the top 4 who's still in the same position he started in. We'll see what happened to Beswick here. This is Millington on lap 1.
Oh, I see.
So he's just been turned and then bang! That's what's triggered those big incidents, and then the third card comes in there. So, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, it's an inconvenient position to come to a stop, isn't it? The exit of a hairpin that goes up the hill. You know, when you're pushed into the ground by the compression, it just induces understeer, and you don't have many places to go. Mitchell, meanwhile, trying to keep Matthew Hansford-Taylor behind him. There's a great little bit of racing between these two. It looks like Hansford-Taylor will have the inside, and he'll get the move done. Will Mitchell be able to fight back at all? It's a good run out of the corner, but there's nowhere for him to go unless he decides to go for the dive up the inside. But, yeah, it didn't work out for him. Splayed across the track in the middle of the course. Everyone having to file their way past him there. Well, that's just given a a position to his teammate Chase Saxild, who will now start to chase down Mitchell Albert for 8th place. Again, it's similar to what we saw in the sport class. It's just a case of surviving to the end, and I don't think many drivers were really prepared for just how much Ledenon was going to throw at them.
Well, you say that it was a spot gain for his teammate Chase Saxill, but he's probably lost out just as bad as anyone else. Because look, he's had to go straight to the dirt.
Oh, yeah.
Almost looped it, and then through goes Mitchell Albert. So he gained a spot, lost a spot, but it did hurt him a little bit. But yeah, I think Race Control are going to look at that, but I think that one's on Mitchell's self-penalising incident. I don't think we'll see too much more. Also, no further action for that incident we saw on lap 1. Also, no further accident for the incident with Burse and also Kane Ryder, Zach Rattray White on lap 2.
Right, so Race Control deeming these racing incidents more than anything. There's Jordan Mazzaroli making his way past Chase Saxild there. Yeah, very nice move indeed. Saxild playing his part, giving him plenty of room to make the move up the inside. He's going to try again as there's side-by-side behind. Zach Rattray White on the recoveries just made his way past Vaughan Ryder, and Dylan Burse is following.
You saw Burse out of that corner, had a huge power slide and was able to hold on. And you can see how much these cars love being bounced over the curbs at this track. The undulations at this track really do lend itself to these cars throwing themselves around over the curbs. Saying that, that's a little bit tight there between Burse, Saxild and Vaughan Ryder. And Ryder decides, no, I don't want anything to do with it. Saxild thought he did want something to do with it and then backed out of it.
Yeah, you don't want to be running side by side too deep into the final corners there. The way the track curves, it means there's a chance that you're both just going to go into each other. So I think wise decision there from Saxild to yield that position. He can try and attack Burse at some other point, or maybe even try and follow him through on the cars ahead. Back up to the front then, Woods, Roberts and Chin. They haven't left each other alone the entire time here. Woods now has the fastest lap, and he is the quickest of the top 3 for the time being. A solid 10th clear of Benjamin Roberts and over 2/10 clear of Kalen Chin on the last lap. This is another masterful drive from Damon Woods, who seems to have that car sorted for the most part.
Wondering though if the likes of Roberts and Chin are just saving a dash of fuel, remembering that they do have to make a small fuel stop as Danny Davison in the Aston Martin painted up car.
Just a little bit of a problem for him.
Yeah, Matthew Hanser-Taylor gets the move done. I lost my train of thought while I was watching these guys battle. It was a really good little fight there, and good to see that they've made it through with a bit of wheel rubbing, but nothing more.
Indeed. Mazzaroli's having a really good run, isn't he? And a little bit over the curbs there for Dylan Burse. He's not going to go for the pits this time around. I'm still waiting for that opportunity for drivers to make their way into the lane. One of them's going to take it. Callum Newton, car number 72 in the pit lane there. So that will be the benchmark then for when everyone else comes into the lane, see what numbers we can expect from them. I was going to say, Mazzaroli's having a really good run up the field, up 8 spots so far, and he's doing his best to stay in touch with Zach Rattray White here, who gets the move done on Mitchell Albert, and all the way out to the outside goes Mitchell Albert, and this is not the greatest position to be in for Mazzaroli. When you see 2 cars side by side there, you're like, where do I go? Well, the only thing you can do is back off and wait for another opportunity, and it might present itself here at the next braking zone. It's such a difficult braking zone, this one, coming into Sector 3. You got to slow down a little bit, carry speed through the corner, and then slow right back down for this hairpin, which is a late apex, and then you're immediately turning right for the run down the hill. There is no opportunity to rest in the final sector, and if you get side by side with someone and manage to pass them through there, it's a bona fide miracle.
You say that there's nowhere for him to go, but he almost thought about pulling a pincer move and going through the middle of the 2 as that was on the left and right hand side of the track, and then backed out of it. Well, I got a bit nervous that he was going to do it, but I'm glad he backed out. And saying that, Albert a little bit slow into turn 1, and then the second of the 3 apexes there, he does go a little bit wide, and Mazzaroli thinks about making the move. They nearly interlock wheels, and Albert's going to hold on to the position. Dylan Burse doesn't think twice about trying to take an opportunity for a position. Won't get it done, though.
If you no longer go for the gap, etc., etc., and there's a gap around the outside for him to go through as well. Tries to
Saxfield
get on
puts
the
you on
power,
here.
runs it all the way out to the gravel trap. You're right, Saxfield's gaining quite a bit thanks to this.
Saxfield's just content sitting there watching, and there's nearly contact again between... That time it's Mazzaroli. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Speaking of contact, that's Davison and Hansford Taylor both off the circuit. What has happened between those guys?
Oh dear, they were battling over sixth
Has to be
spot.
contact, but who's caused it and how did it happen?
It looks to me like it was a lose on his own from Matthew Hansford Taylor. Contact didn't cause the incident.
Oh.
Yeah, he spun right ahead and up into the air goes Danny Davison. That's just really unfortunate for him. When a car spins in front of you, you get splayed across the track like that. If you're close enough, you don't have enough time to react. Well, Mazzaroli and Saxhill have decided to make their way into the lane here, get the fuel topped up. Quickest pit stop we've seen so far has been from Chris Mitchell. Callum Newton's pit stop was decidedly long, 11.6 seconds. I think he might have repaired some damage on the way as well. But Saxhild and Mazzaroli, 4.4 and 4.7 seconds respectively. At least according to my timing, your numbers are obviously different on the screen there. 4.2 and 4.6 for those two guys. So Saxhild with a quicker pit stop. Is that going to help him in terms of how much fuel he has left?
Oh, Matthew Hansford Taylor's in another battle, that time with Banerjee, who gets through, but... Oh, here comes Hansford Taylor again. Oh, makes contact and around he goes. Hansford Taylor has a mechanical black flag, so I'm surprised he's racing as aggressively as he is. He's obviously got a fair bit of damage. One thing I was going to say about those pit stops, wondering if the difference in the times of the pit stops, whether someone's taking tyres or not, or whether someone is doing no tyres or the other thing, whether they're replacing the front wing, which I'm going to guess is what Danny Davison has done.
Yeah, I think that's the case for Davison and potentially for Newton as well, because their times were similar as well. So
Newton pitted out a sequence with absolutely everyone, so that wouldn't surprise me as well.
Yeah, certainly. 4-second stop for Eddie Beswick. Meanwhile, he's going to come out, I think, just ahead of Saxhild and Mazzaroli.
Yep.
Yeah, they're just exiting the final corner now. Remember, those guys are fighting over the last couple of positions, I think, just outside the top 10 when they were...
Oh, this is going to be actually relatively close. There goes Saxhill.
Yeah, it is.
Beswick comes in behind.
Too as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
Here we go again, and that's
no.
another spin for Hansford Taylor. I am still surprised that he's continuing on, considering the amount of damage he obviously has. You don't just... You don't get a mechanical black flag for nothing. A meatball flag isn't thrown just because. So, just bottomed out through the compression of the corner there.
Yeah, so it wasn't entirely due to the state of his car, but evidently there's enough damage to the suspension at least that
The front
iRacing's
wing's
decided it's time to bring him in.
the front wing is not straight. The left-hand side of that front wing is facing a slightly different angle. It looks a bit more like origami than a front wing. It's that crinkled and crushed up. Yeah, it's definitely not looking straight. And as you say, it's suspension obviously has some damage. You have to come into the pits either this lap or the next. Otherwise, he will get disqualified by iRacing. He's going to make it the next.
Yeah, he shall. I've been bitten by that before. Got a mechanical
Likewise.
black flag right near the end of an official race, and I thought, I'm just going to finish the race.
He just got disqualified. He's done too many laps.
Yeah, there we go. When you get the mechanical black flag, you need to come in to get it repaired. That's what the flag
Ben Roberts
signifies. Oh no, Roberts was running second at the time, and he was quite close to Damon Woods. It looks like he's just gotten unsettled coming up the hill out of the first hairpin of the lap, and
He's just run it wide.
yeah, he's run wide. Oh, the slide had already started before the curb, but he obviously got on the power a tad too early.
Yeah, he was trying to match Damon Woods' throttle position, throttle launch time, and didn't match it as well as he normally would, and around he went. So unfortunate for Roberts. He'll come into the pits now, though. Not a bad decision just to come in after a mistake. Good chance to get your head straight, your breath back, and calm the heart rate down a tiny little bit. As I said, you don't get much chance to take a breather around this track, and I 3.8 second pit stop. It's about all you're going to get.
Yeah, that's basically breathe in, breathe out, and go again for Benjamin Roberts. Burst has come into the lane with an 11.6 second stop as well. Just about to come out as Alexander Wilson finds himself behind Corey Bennett. These are the last two cars that haven't pitted running for position. Benjamin Roberts behind them leading the cars that have pitted. So we're expecting more of our top 10 now to find their way into the lane. Woods, now that he's seen Roberts' mistake and pit stop, I thought that he would take the opportunity to pit on this lap, but he hasn't, and it seems like Mr. Chin has decided the same. They're just going to continue on for now. It's a case of who wants to go long, who wants to go long in the second stint as well. For the time being, it looks like no one is wanting to come in on this lap. Oh dear, that was Wilson there, ahead of Roberts. Lucky escape there.
Yeah, Ben Roberts might be ruining the fact of pitting there. He's decided to come in, obviously, after that spin, and now lost a tiny little bit more ground, but Wilson takes the opportunity to drive it into the pits. So, as you say, top 10 basically, now top 9 drivers left to make their pit stops as this battle continues between Mazzaroli, Beswick and Saxhill. Now it is for 11th position on track.
Yeah, looks like a pretty clean battle as well. Beswick, remember, came out behind Saxhill and Mazzaroli, and they were inverted before, so there's been a few developments in this battle. Saxhill trying to get the power down as early as he can. Ledenon's very much a momentum circuit. You need a pointy car to make your way around here, and remember, the Pro Class is open setup while Sport is fixed, so these guys have a bit more opportunity to tweak the car to their liking. You need a car that rides the bumps, that turns in resolutely, but is also stable enough on the rear on exit that you can take advantage of traction up the hill.
Alan Newton's received an iRacing black flag. Now, I'm not sure whether that's for a slowdown penalty that hasn't been served or for hitting the incident limit, but either way, it's a very, very lengthy stop and hold that Newton will have right now as Hydes and Bennett are both into the pits. That leaves us with 7 yet to make their pit stop. Not many left.
Yep, they will drop. And that's a big weave there for Beswick.
Trying to break the draft that doesn't really exist too much. Oh, excuse me, too much around this circuit.
Yeah, and it seems that Mazzaroli has dropped these guys. He had a very good lap on the last lap. 0.5 of a second faster than Beswick and Saxhill. I think these guys getting a little bit too crossed up with each other.
Now, I have found that penalty from iRacing. It is not a slowdown penalty. It's actually been a huge cut course.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Tarmac runoffs here at Ledenon.
There's another
cut. Okay.
So he's just cut 2 corners there and then continued on and then driven into the pits. So that's what's happened there. Beswick has lost a bit of ground to Mazzaroli with all of that weaving down the straight, and they've got Dylan Burst closing in as well.
This could soon become a 4-way battle. Don't forget, these guys are battling for the 3rd place of the cars that have pitted. Saxhill getting a tiny bit of slipstream on the back of Beswick. It's really the only place around the circuit where you can get the slipstream, and the lines you can take through this triple left that opens up the lap, it's so difficult to get it right because you see the difference there on the exit. Saxhill was a little bit more conservative through the corners. He was able to get a better exit and not run quite as far over that curb on the exit as Beswick did. That's one of the places where you can gain a ton of time around this circuit. The track temperature still at 23 Celsius, as that's very wide there for Beswick, and Saxhill is through. I'm not sure exactly what caused that, but maybe Eddie got a little bit too eagerly on the throttle on the exit. Saxild, regardless, finds himself now in 11th position, just in time for Dylan Burst to arrive on the scene.
One thing I've noticed between these two drivers is that Beswick looks a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more over the limit, and Saxield looks a little bit smoother. May not be as fast in the out-and-out pace, but when you add in the inconsistency that Beswick tends to have with his aggressive driving, it probably balances itself out a bit. Beswick now with the momentum and towing along his teammate. Maybe that's part of the dropping back as to help his teammate out, who just sets the fastest lap of the race. That is Dylan Burst coming.
Goodness gracious, Dylan Burst. That's actually a massive lap. That's nearly 4/10 faster than what Damon Woods could manage up the front of the field. Just goes to show if things had turned out a little differently for Dylan, then maybe he would have been fighting for the win. Beswick lets his teammate go with, I think, a little bit of a wiggle, just to let him know, hey, I'm giving you this place. Go and attack Chase.
Becker comes in from P3. So Rattray White now takes over third position. So still 6 drivers in the field yet to make their pit stop in this race. Is still side by side between Saxield and Burst, and Beswick's there to take the position back if he can.
Oh, that run around the outside there from Dylan Burst. That was a beautiful move. Saxield giving him just enough room around the outside to get it done. Yeah, you can tell Burst is on an absolute blinder at the moment to try and make up those positions. We are still waiting for those pit stops from our top 6 drivers. They're going very long on this first stint.
I'm wondering if Burst changed tyres in that stop. I think Burst may have done something with the tyres. I've just seen Ben Roberts, who's the leader of the drivers that have pitted. He's just had a big spin through the turn 7 hairpin.
Oh, man. It's all going wrong for Roberts, isn't it? He was so strong.
He's just pushing too hard.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a clear track ahead of him. He wanted to make up time and maybe try and get a bit of extra advantage, but just lost it in the middle of the corner there. There's a bit of a bump in the middle of that turn that gets
same as what we saw with Hansford Taylor, isn't it? Same sort of incident.
Yeah.
Just bottomed out a little bit and went around.
For sure. Well, Damon Woods and Kalen Chin, 3.9 seconds stops for the both of them. Actually, it looks like Woods a 3.7 second stop. He's going to come out well ahead and not going to have much pressure from behind. Roberts, meanwhile, could stand a chance to gain a little bit here. Back up into 4th, and Zach Rattray White just coming out of the pits behind him there. So Roberts still running in the top 3 despite his mistake.
Caleb Hyde's biggest mover in the field. He's up 12 positions and he's not too far behind Ben Roberts now. So last lap by with that spin was obviously 4 seconds quicker, but the laps before that, he was gaining about 2, 3, 4 tenths. So he's starting to close that gap down, not far away from getting that tiny little bit of draft you do get at this track. Don't be surprised if Caleb Hyde is right on Ben Roberts' tail with 1 lap to go. May be able to steal a position on that last lap.
Yeah, well, with all of that, that's everyone in the field having visited the pits. So it's now going to be a 5-minute sprint all the way to the end. Say around about 4 laps to go for our leader, Damon Woods, who's coming into the final corner now. 3 main battles on track at the moment. Albert Mazzaroli and Burst for 7th spot. That's the one we're looking at right now. And it seems like Burst is going to try up here on Mazzaroli. Fires it up the inside. Gets the move done conclusively through the hairpin, and now can turn his attentions to Albert. And then there's the 3 behind, Ryder, Beswick and Saxild. Looks like Eddie has not been able to really keep up with Dylan Burst there, but they stand a chance to find their way past Vaughan Ryder, or maybe Saxild will if Beswick keeps running wide at the final corner like that. Oh dear.
Yeah, this is going to get
inside into turn 1. You don't usually see much passing happening there, but Burst got it done.
And, Mazzaroli has a huge moment there as he tried to throw it up the inside of Albert and then realised the door was going to close extremely quickly. Got on the brakes, made sure that there wasn't any contact. As Beswick gets past on Vaughan Ryder's come out of the pits and right in the middle of the battle that these two have had ever since the pit stop started, basically. Saxield was ahead of Beswick, lost the spot, gained the spot back, then lost the spot after the overtake from Burse, and now is behind Vaughan Ryder and Eddie Beswick. We'll go back to that other battle because Mazzaroli is trying to make a move on Mitchell Albert and finding gaps out on track that don't really exist at the moment as Burse uses the track limits plus more.
Yeah, all the way out to the grass. But those aren't the track limits. The white lines are around here, and the red and white curbs too. You're able to go outside the white lines as long as you keep 2 wheels on that red and white curbing. So let's see who makes the best use of it. Looked like a good exit from the final corner there for Mazzaroli. Will he be able to find his way past Mitchell Albert here? Tiny little whisper of slipstream down the front straight. Any chance of making up time through Triple Gauche? Nice and smooth. Look at how little wheel work we're seeing there from Mazzaroli. He's just pointing and the car is following exactly what he wants to do. That's very significant. Probably the first driver I've seen tonight who isn't driving like a madman around here.
It's the first one we've been on board with where the wheel work is smooth, isn't it? With Mazzaroli here. He's looking very, very content, and it could just be that he's saved some tyres and other drivers have been pushing, like Beswick. We've seen pushing extremely hard. We're going to cut away from that, though, because I believe this for 4th now. Rattray White, remember, lap 2, he was facing the wrong direction. He now gets past Caleb Hydes, who is up now 11 positions. Rattray White up 3 in 4th position. Good drive back through the field. Great recovery for Rattray White.
Yeah, he pitted on the same lap as our leaders, Woods and Chin as well. This is a fantastic recovery from Zach. Now up 3 spots from where he started, despite his spin. Just goes to show you, speed isn't everything. Consistency and keeping it on the straight and narrow is just as big a part of racing as being outright fast. And it seems like, drivers like Damon Woods, they're on top for precisely that reason. Yeah, they've got the speed, but they've also got the ability to not make mistakes over the course of an entire race.
Exactly right. I think minimising mistakes is the big thing, and the consistency in the lap times from Damon Woods. Sure, he hasn't had the outright pace, but he hasn't made any of those sort of errors. Even Ben Roberts, who is one of the best in these cars, has made mistakes tonight. He's made 2 very, very big mistakes, which cost him probably 5 seconds out on track. Then it's amplified when he's trying to get back through traffic and now finds himself 12 seconds behind.
Yeah, I think the problem with what we're seeing here, particularly from Hydes, is, he's getting on the power early to try and get a good run out of the corners, but you want to get a bit of rotation in the car on your way through so that you can actually be pointed in the right direction and maximize the exit. But you get on the power too early and there's not enough grip in the fronts, then you're just going to understeer off. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing there from Caleb Hydes. He just needs to be maybe a bit smoother and more gradual on the power, and he'd be able to keep up with Zach Rattray White. For the time being, though, he might have to just settle for P5. 30 seconds remaining. White flag is out for our leader, Damon Woods. Got a 3.5 second gap now over Kalen Chin. His pace out of the pit stop was legendary, and I mean he's just cruising his way to yet another victory in the Motorsport Australia F4 Australian Championship. What a drive from our number 1 car. Got pole, started from the front, and he was looking back a little earlier on, but now it's just eyes forward out of the final corner, past the pit entry, across the crest of the hill, and waiting for him is the checkered flag. Damon Woods winning round 6 at Ledenon.
Yeah, great drive from Damon Woods and winning yet another round of this series. Kalen Chin, a great drive from him to finish in position number 2. And Ben Roberts, I think from where he found himself early on, he'll be disappointed, but then from where he found himself midway through the race, he'll be happy he got away with it. Rattray White finishes ahead of Caleb Hydes for 4th and 5th. Great battle there in the end. Albert is going to hold on from Mazzaroli in the end by the looks of it as well. Well done from Mitchell Albert. Well done from Jordan Mazzaroli. 8th and 9th in the end. Great fight from those guys, and they kept it clean as well.
Yeah, Mazzaroli got close, but I was looking at him on my end and he made a couple of mistakes behind Albert that ultimately stymied the run. So He'll have to settle for 9th, but it was a valiant fight with Mitchell Albert right at the very end. Ryder, meanwhile, finishing ahead of Saxild. And, well, now we find our way to the end lap. Just got Wilson and Donahue to finish the race from here. Unfortunately, quite a few retirements from this race as well. Seems like Kane Ryder actually wasn't able to make it back out. It's a real shame for him. But Damon Woods finishing 4.6 seconds ahead of Kalen Shin in the end, with Roberts, Rattray White, and Hides rounding out the top 5. Isaac Becker had a bit of a quiet race, but ultimately finishing 6th ahead of Burst, making his recovery. Albert up 7 places. Jordan Mazzaroli up 9 spots. And Eddie Beswick will round out the top 10.
Yeah, from there we go back to Vaughan Ryder, who was also up 9 positions in the end. Chase Saxield in 12th. Rishba Banerjee in 13th position ahead of Chris Mitchell in 14th. I'm doing a shocking job of butchering people's names tonight. Danny Davison in 15th. Corey Bennett in 16th ahead of Alexander Wilson and Thomas Donahue. The last finishers of the race. From there we go back to Matthew Hansford Taylor, Kane Ryder, and then Hayden Millington, Seth Burchart, Alex Beswick. They all did not finish, and Callum Newton was disqualified for dangerous driving.
Yeah, not ideal for quite a few drivers tonight here in virtual France, but we'll wait and see if any of the drivers from our top 3 jump in for a chat with us. I mean, this was a frenetic round, wasn't it, Jay? A very tight and twisty circuit always puts up exciting racing in any class of machine. But these rapid Formula 4s put on a great show tonight, and that show was won by Damon Woods, the number 1 finishing P1. Once again, he's with us now. Congratulations, Damon. It seemed like there was a point beyond which all you had to do was just cruise to victory there, but it can't have been easy around this place.
This track is super challenging to stay focused, and considering that there's so much elevation, it's really hard to keep your reference points and keep locked in for the whole 30 minutes. But yeah, I just kept it clean. Unfortunately, Ben had a spin just before halfway point of the race, so yeah, kind of let me off the hook, and I kind of just controlled my own pace and had a bit of fun.
Yeah, indeed. Challenging with the pit stop as well, but very quick indeed. Were there any doubts on how much fuel you'd need?
No, we're pretty certain on how much fuel we're going to be needing. Did a little bit of fuel saving just to make sure that I was going to get that extra lap, and that my fuel number was 100% correct. Didn't want to underfuel anything and cough out across the line and lose the win. So yeah, I was just making sure that it was all going to be in place for the end.
Well, Spa is the next round of the championship, polar opposite of this place. You're going to have plenty of room to slipstream there. Do you expect with that slipstreaming opportunity, it's going to be a tougher race to victory for you next time?
I mean, I'm not going to be here for the next round. I'm away on holidays, which is unfortunate considering Spa is one of my favourite tracks on the service. But I mean, for all the other boys, yeah, it's going to be the same. As you were saying, yeah, it's going to be draft trains, going to be hectic racing, especially down Camel Straight. Going to be most likely seeing some 3-wide action, probably 3 rows deep. So should be a good watch from up in Queensland, and yeah, cheering on the boys.
Lovely stuff. Well, we'll see you around after next, Damon. Congratulations on the win. Anyone you want to thank for it?
I just got to thank the door crew for their support. We've been putting in a lot of work on our international side of things, and yeah, they've supported me a heap. So big thanks to them. And yeah, the FRG crew for putting on these events. So big thanks.
Damon Woods there coming away with the victory here in round 6 at Ledenon. In second place, it was Kalen Chen. Well, Kalen, tight battling with Damon and Benjamin in the early stages. How was it from your perspective?
Yeah, it was. I mean, we didn't really have any wheel-to-wheel battling, but just trying to keep with both of them because they were definitely quicker than me. That was tough, especially since I literally was about a second off in practice and somehow clutched up quali. But yeah, it was a fun race. Just like hot lapping every lap, but I'm just a bit annoyed I didn't get to do any wheel-to-wheel racing with Benny, but it is what it is.
I think he'll have a bit more of an opportunity next week. We're going to Spa. I think it's a bit more room for close racing around there.
Yeah, better than this track, which, in my opinion, not really the greatest for racing, but oh well, what can you do? Yeah, I'm gonna look forward to next week, hopefully with a bit more practice this time, since I'll have only one HSC exam after that, but, you know, yeah, hopefully next week will be, you know, a lot more fun.
Yeah, certainly hoping the same for you, Kalen. Congratulations on the P2. Anyone you want to shout out?
You know, obviously, my mom, my dad especially, he's watching the stream right now. Damon, Dylan, Caleb, Eddie, all those boys at Eclipse, Damon especially for the setup. And obviously you guys in the booth and those stewarding and those hosting this event, you know, for making it possible. And, yeah.
Kalen Chin there, finishing just off the lead on the final lap here. And finally, going to have a chat to Benjamin Roberts. That must have been heartbreaking, that spin for you, Benjamin, but still managing to get a top 3 out of this one. It's an achievement.
Yeah, I think I probably had top 3 pace for this track anyway, so P3 I'll take it. But yeah, especially after the spin and after the pit stop, I had the pace to stick with them, and I think I was slightly quicker through the pit lane as well. So yeah, probably good case of what could have been, but yeah, again, P3, solid points, I'll take it.
Yep, solid points indeed, which you can carry through into the remaining rounds of the championship. It has been the Damon Woods show, but he's not going to be here next week, so that's one of your prime opportunities to strike back.
Yeah, the shame Damon's not going to be here for Spa. You know, Spa's always lots of fun, so yeah, bring it on.
Bring it on indeed. Well, thanks for joining us, Benjamin. Any shout-outs you want to give before we let you go?
Big shout out to the team, DPR, all our sponsors, SimRigs, MP Designs, Stealth Weather Lifts and Hoist, Ben Max Mechanical.
Benjamin Roberts there, finishing 3rd in the end. Could have been 2nd, though, were it not for that slight mistake. Well, Jay, next week, November the 4th, we will be racing at Spa-Francorchamps, track that has recently had a rescan added to the iRacing service. These
Thanks for reminding me. I need to do more B-roll. I need to update the B-roll because that's the old track that's in the background there. But yeah, it should be a good track. And also, if you wanted to watch the likes of Damon and Ben and Caleb racing in the World Championship over the weekend, it will be this weekend, Sunday morning, 6 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. The fun thing about that track, that Series 2 race, they don't know where they're racing. They find out 24 hours before, so there's no advantage for anyone getting heaps of practice in. They might get thrown a curveball and get Ledenon. Imagine if they got that. They have got a bit of practice. That's their hope, that they get a track that they've already raced in this. But yeah, next Monday night, that'll be interesting to see. We're guaranteed a different winner from tonight.
Yeah, indeed we are. Oh man, it's going to be a fun time over the next week for Formula 4 Esports racing, no matter which series you're following. If you're following this one and you're watching with us here on YouTube and the Motorsport Australia socials on Facebook, etc., we really appreciate you tagging along with us for what has been a very interesting night of racing indeed. Big thanks to Formula Racing Group for putting the series on, and for Motorsport Australia for helping to put the series together as well. The Formula 4 Esports Australian Championship Round 6 here at Ledenon going to Damon Woods in the Pro class. And what a fantastic drive it was. He won't be here next week. Who's going to take the top spoils in his absence? We'll have to wait and see. I'm Reese Gardner, Jay Kennedy with me in the comms box, and producing behind the scenes here on SimSpeed TV. We'll see you next time.
It's motorsport, but not as you know it. Test yourself and your everyday road car. Safe, affordable, but most of all, fun. And all you need is your daily driver. Experience the thrill of a sprint day, race against the clock at a hill climb, or test your reflexes with an auto test. It takes just 3 simple steps to get started. Get on the start line. Search Motorsport Australia Daily Driver today.